All right, so today Professor MacDougall asked us two Cal Poly students to help you two Fresno State students understand what an externality is.
Wait, so what is an externality?
I believe it's an old wooden ship that was used in the Civil War times.
Give me the test right now, I ace it.
Because I know that we know what an externality is, but these Fresno State students do not have nearly close to the idea of what it is. So, but if you're so confident, what is an externality?
An externality is an effect of a purchase or use decision by one set of parties on others who did not have a choice and whose interests were not taken into account.
Can you show me like some kind of picture? I don't really get it.
Yeah, sure. So here we just have our graphs. There's two different kinds of externalities. There's a negative and then there's a positive.
So this kind of looks like a supply and demand graph.
Yeah, except there is a very big difference between the two of them. For a negative externality, you're going to have a social cost on your graph, which is the cost that is incurred by society as a part of the transaction. They're the third party. Private cost is only the cost to the firm in the transaction. And then for a positive externality, there is a marginal social benefit that is incurred by the third party in the transaction that is benefiting that's not a part of the transaction, basically. So private benefit would be every party that's involved in the transaction. Social benefit is everyone that's not, but they are also benefiting.
Okay, makes sense.
So can you show us what an externality is on this graph?
Yes, I can. So in between these two lines is where your externality is. So on a positive graph, your externality is the additional benefit each firm or the third party gets because the private firm does not welcome that benefit. So at every price point, let's say there's a benefit of like $10. At every price point, that's going to be $10, and so this area right here is your marginal external benefit. So, and the same thing on the cost, or on the negative externality, this area is your marginal external cost. So it's all this area. That is your marginal external cost. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. Can you give me an example of like a real world externality?
A real world positive externality, we have Cal Poly or slow businesses are benefiting from the amount of students being admitted each year.
What would be the transaction in this example?
The transaction would be between the Cal Poly students and Cal Poly itself, and how the students are paying for fun activities, tuition, and stuff like that.
So who's the third party that's being affected in the externality?
So the third party in this example would be all the slow businesses that students are going to because their needs are not being met by the university. So on the graph, if it was a perfect market, this would be the market equilibrium, where the marginal private benefit would meet this marginal cost. So in a perfect market, all the needs by the Cal Poly students are being met, so they do not need to go off campus to go downtown and buy food and such. But since those needs are not being met, the benefit that we move to the social equilibrium, and this is where this is where the slow businesses, this is the amount of space that, or the amount of benefit that slow businesses gain because they're not paying for, that they're gaining because the Cal Poly students are not going to Cal Poly to buy their I don't know, they're fun, they're downtown bars, alcohol, or clothes and that type of stuff. So all the businesses are gaining this amount of benefit because Cal Poly is not offering that to the students.
So how do you show the slow businesses are benefiting from the transaction?
Here, I'll show you on this graph. It'll give you a better understanding. So basically, right here at the market equilibrium, this is what they're offering the students right now, but the students are really demanding this amount of benefit. So basically, this area right here is what Cal Poly is not offering to the students that they're demanding. So bars, restaurants, shops, whatnot, is what the students demand, but they're not receiving from Cal Poly. So if Cal Poly wanted to meet the social benefits, social demand of what the Cal Poly students have, they would have to shift their graph to the right. They would have to add bars, restaurants, and whatever else that the students are demanding to meet this social equilibrium.
So is there any way to eliminate the marginal external benefits?
Yeah, there is. For example, popular business and slow is the chop shop. They do a lot of haircuts for Cal Poly students, and the benefits they receive, the external benefits, is because Cal Poly is supplying a lot of students. I've talked to their owner, and he said that during the summer his appointments are a lot more sporadic and it's a lot quieter. During the school year, there's a lot more students being provided to him, so he has a lot more appointments. And basically, if Cal Poly wanted to increase their marginal private benefits, they would create a barbershop on campus that would take his external benefits away from him.
So another reason why Cal Poly is not a social marginal benefit is because Cal Poly is a dry campus. So in order to get rid of that marginal external benefit, Cal Poly would have to get rid of the dry campus policy.
Alright, so I think I'm starting to get a better idea of what an externality is. Can I try giving you guys an example?
Sure.
So back at Fresno State, I live right next to a frat house, and on the weekends it gets really noisy, and my place gets trashed, it's really loud, and sometimes I miss my alarm and I can't wake up for work. So am I the third party that's being negatively affected in that transaction?
I think you're understanding that the effects have to be monetizable, and the third party is always a person. With this situation, the noise, if you had to pay for, say, soundproofing the house, or you don't make it to work on time, or you don't make it to work at all, and you miss out on some money.
Alright, so our goal at the beginning of this was to teach you Fresno State students what an externality is. So can one of you guys give the definition of a positive externality and how it affects to this example?
I think I got it. So positive externality is a transaction between two people that benefit a third party in some way. The third party has to be a person and it has to be measured in a monetary way. And the example would be, since Cal Poly cannot meet all the demands of the Cal Poly students go downtown to shop or go to the bars to meet those demands, which creates a marginal external benefit for the businesses downtown. Cal Poly could meet these benefits by expanding Cal Poly store or putting grocery stores or restaurants in to meet the demands of the Cal Poly students.
And as a result, they would reach the marginal social benefit. So that sounds pretty good, guys. Nice work.
Thanks for
Guys,
teaching us, Cal Poly. We're so much smarter now.
yeah. Hey, you were smarter than we thought.